How to avoid yoga teacher burnout. You've been teaching yoga for a long period of time, maybe multiple classes a week, especially hot yoga because that's the field that I'm an expert at. But it can really apply to any type of yoga that you're teaching. It can apply to any type of teaching that you do. You could be a college professor and this is going to apply to that as well. How to avoid burnout. But one of the things that directly apply to the hot yoga teacher, you got to hydrate. You got to make sure that you have enough water. You have water with you in the room. In the old days, we didn't have water bottles. They didn't invent them until the 80s. I think it was Evian that came up with the first idea of the plastic water bottle. At the break, we went outside and had those little cones that they had, the big 5-gallon jugs of water. And we would drink as much water as we can and go back in. But you want to hydrate and make sure you take care of yourself. Now, in the Bikram world, you don't do the postures with them. In the Barkan world, you can. And in Vinyasa class, you can do the postures with them. But that's something else you want to think about. You don't have to be doing every single pose in the class just because sometimes people like to do the pose because now it's easier to connect your words to your body when you're doing the postures with them. But if you're teaching multiple classes a day, it's impossible. Bikram and I taught every single class. There's no way we were able to do every single posture with them. It was way too physically demanding to do the postures with them if you're teaching multiple classes a day. If you're doing one class a day, that's a different story, but you have to conserve your energy, your physical energy in class, and make sure you hydrate. Before I give you the next tip, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, smash the like button if you're enjoying this video. Any comments, questions, or frustrations, put them down below. I get to all the comments. Now this can apply to teachers in any field if you're teaching the same curriculum all the time. Now in the Bikram world, you're teaching what they call the dialogue. You're teaching the same postures day in and day out. In the Barkan world, we do the same postures on a regular basis, but we also mix it up. Every day we will highlight a different area of the body. But the point is, if you're teaching the same postures all the time, how are you going to make it fresh? How are you going to make it new? Just because you're teaching standing head to knee every day, just because you're teaching standing bow every day, the class is always different. So you have to look at the people in the class. And I've talked about this in another video once before. It's like looking at the class as a puzzle piece, and everyone in the class is a piece of the puzzle. Every day that's going to change. There's always going to be a change of people. Some days you may have all beginners. Some days you may have all experienced or advanced people. A lot of times you're going to have a mixture of the two, but every single day you're going to have different people in that class. So now what you want to do is put the focus on them off of you. That's also going to help you if you're a news teacher to get out of your self-consciousness and out of watching and monitoring yourself. Best way of doing that is to record yourself, and then you can look at it and you can make an evaluation afterwards. But while you're in the class, look at the students, look around. You can start making corrections, get off script. How are you going to get that student to the next level? What are you going to say to suggest them, to correct them, or to encourage them to get them to that next level? That's going to be more of your intention, not so much just repeating the dialogue, just repeating what we call in the Barkan method, the bullet points. And one of the things that Bikram did better than anybody was to correct. That's something he really didn't pass on in his teacher training programs. If you were fortunate enough to take class with Bikram on a regular basis, you could see he wasn't just throwing out what we call the dialogue in the Bikram world, but he was also correcting. The leg's too high, bring your leg down a little bit, move your hip up, you get those fingers down a little bit lower. There's always something you can do. In the Barkan method on-demand teacher training program, we play a game. It's called What's Wrong with This Picture?
What is wrong with this picture?
So even though it's an online course, every Thursday night we have a Zoom meeting and people log in from all over the world, and I will flash pictures up on the screen and we play what's wrong with that picture. The leg's too high, foot needs to be turned in here, the leg needs to be shifted over here. Where's that foot, where's the knee, and where's the hip? Usually it's the hip, not the knee and not the foot. Understanding the correction, it's like the key that unlocks the doors. The tumbler must fit in perfectly to get the intended release. So when you're looking at those students, they're always different. Every day there's that different puzzle. Every day there's that different equation, and you can make those corrections. It's going to get you off script, and it's going to get you in the moment. That's the whole point of this. Get yourself in the moment by looking around at your students, making the corrections or the encouragements, and getting you out of your routine. And what I said before, record yourself. That's something that you can do. Now that you're recording yourself, you can go back and watch. You can monitor to see how you're doing. You're going to watch for repeated words like, go ahead and bring your arms overhead. Go ahead and extend your leg out to the ceiling. Or again, arms overhead. Again, bring your hip back. These repeated words, people are going to pick up on at one point. And if you're mindful of it, you can start to change it. Another one is here. From here, bring your left leg forward. From here, lower down. We know it's from here. It's not from there. It's from here.
Stop it! Stop it!
Stop it!
You have to watch the repeated patterns and eliminate them by being conscious and mindful of it. How are you going to do that? Record yourself. And this way you can make an analysis. And then once again, it's going to get you off of your routine. It's going to get you out of that pattern. It's going to get you out of that autotone repeated pattern of speech. Because that's what happens when you're teaching yoga on a regular basis, especially if you're teaching multiple classes a week, especially if you're teaching multiple classes a day, it's easy to get into a repeated pattern. And when you get into a repeated pattern, you're not going to be as effective. This is one of the main things that I teach in my teacher train programs, both live and online. If you're interested in becoming a Barkan hot yoga teacher, I put links down in the description below. We'd love to have you join the family. So I know I'm saying record yourself and you can make the analysis later, but every now and then in the class, you want to check in with yourself. I was just telling this to my teacher train program. People in Iceland just completed the Iceland teacher train program. Check in with yourself. Have I been sounding the same for the last 3-4 minutes? If so, change it up. I call it variety of tone. You can't be in this repeated pattern because the students are going to tune you out. If you're constantly in this what I call teacher voice or presenter voice and you're in this repeated pattern of speech, the students are going to zone out. Especially if you're doing, let's say, a Bikram class and they know what posture is next. They're really not listening to you at this point. They know what's next. They're doing their own practice. But when you can break the pattern, when you can change it up or go what I call conversational or find the explanation voice, and let me explain how that works. Let's talk about half moon pose, for example, in the teacher voice. And the transitions are important. That's when you can get into teacher voice. I'm not saying be in a conversation voice all the time because then it borderlines at getting to be too casual. So let's say half moon pose. Arms overhead, interlace the fingers, index finger release. Take a deep breath in and stretch over to the right, hips to the left, chest out, arms back, left heel to the ground. That's my teacher voice. If I sound like this for 90 minutes or 75 minutes, you're going to strangle me or you're just going to tune me out. So instead, what we want to do is find an important point within the pose. Doesn't matter, doesn't have to be the most important point there is, but find an important point that's in the pose. For example, you're reaching your arms to the right, hips to the left. You're not just reaching your arms to the right. We want to get the hips going to the left. That's the opposite direction. When we're creating an opposite direction, that's how the body's going to respond to the stretch. So listen to the tone of voice, not what I'm saying, but how I'm saying it. All of a sudden, the inflection changes. It drops down because now I'm having a conversation. I'm explaining to you my real authentic voice, not hips to the left, arms to the right, chest is out. That's a repeated pattern, but it's an opposite direction. So we find the opposite direction. That's the difference. That's when the body's going to respond to it. Once again, I broke the pattern. So when you do that, now you get the student's ear. People sometimes will actually turn and they'll say, oh, is he talking to me? Because it's going to be that personal. It's going to be that authentic. And when you do that, not only are you going to get the student's ear and be a more effective teacher, but now you're going to be more in the moment. And that's one of the big ways of avoiding the burnout. Another great tip to avoid burnout is to continue your education. I learned more from Bikram after I was certified, for the 10, 12 years after I was certified, than I was when I was in the certification program. When you're in your certification program, you're just learning, you're crunching, you're trying to memorize things. In our teacher train program, we have a test, you're trying to cram for the test. Once you become a teacher, now you've got a classroom that becomes your workshop, and now you can really hone in your skills. How are you going to do that? Take more teacher training programs. Go to the next level. In the Barkan world, you can take the 300-hour certification to become a 500-hour teacher. Then you become an experienced 500-hour teacher. Take as many workshops, teacher training programs as you can. In the Barkan method, we have online courses where you can get those higher degrees. We also have live trainings as well. So as you continue your education, and I'll put links in the description below, as you continue your education, when you come off a yoga retreat, like we go to Costa Rica every May, we've been doing that now, this will be our 24th year coming up. When you come back from that training, you are revitalized. And now you're going to bring this new passion and new energy into your classroom. It's going to empower your, not just your practice, but your teaching. And you're going to take that into the yoga room and you're going to see this major difference because now you've got the spark. Now we're fanning the flame and now that passion increases and now your classes become so much more effective. So let's sum it up. In the hot yoga world, you got to hydrate. You got to take care of yourself. Don't be doing every single pose with them. Watch. There's no way you're going to be able to correct people when you're doing the practice yourself. Stand around and watch. As a new teacher, you're going to be focusing a little bit more on the new students. As you get more experience, you can be able to correct pretty much everyone in the room, especially as you get really experienced. The students are the puzzle piece. That's going to get you more into the moment. Break that pattern. Get out of that pattern of speech, what I call the teacher voice, that repeated cadence. You got to break it. Explain something that's important. Find it. I call this the gem.
Gem, Doctor?
in my teacher training programs. Find the gem in each pose and share that gem with your students so you can get their ear. Because if you're in that repeated pattern, most of the time they're probably thinking about where they're going to lunch and who they're going to lunch with. They know what posture's next, especially in the Bikram world. They really don't have to hear you. If you're in that repeated pattern, they won't hear you. You actually put them in a hypnotic trance-like state.
Why are you hypnotizing Tommy?
So instead, what you have to do is create variety of tone. Break that pattern, get that student's ear. What a difference. Because that's really the main thing. That's going to get you out of the repetition, which is the key. Because if you're in that repetition, that's going to create burnout. You're in the heat. You're in the classroom. You're saying, oh my God. In the old days, Bikram and I taught every single class. I taught 6 classes a day in the beginning. Then I went down to 5 classes a day for a long period of time. And I was burning out until I started to implement these tips. Started to put the focus on the students. Every class is different. I started to learn more. I started to read more. I started to fan the flame of passion with continuing education, looking at the students, getting the focus off of myself and onto them, and what a difference it will make. I guarantee it's going to make all the difference for you. So that's our episode for today. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell. You can ring the notification bell, then you're notified when I post a new video. Any questions, concerns, comments, put them down. I get to all the comments. You want to learn all about hot yoga and all facets of it, hit the like button right now. And we'll see you at the next video. Bye, everyone.